Remember COVID? Remember how we felt like we had free money? The lowest ever interest rates, basically of all time, government spending money willy-nilly. Cornelius Boertjens faced that head-on in his business, and it had real direct consequences for his sale process.
And then COVID hit, and then obviously we all got free money. The investments in digital ramped up like crazy. Our profit went double or triple. Looking back, if I would ever do it again, I'd exit straight away.
I love a good analogy in business. Cornelius comes up with an absolute cracker, and it's the notion of getting yourself immersed in different projects and the intensity of focus that one can bring to seemingly mindless and meaningless things.
I said to my wife, take 6 months off, right? I'd do nothing. The first couple of weeks I was creating lists, things I can finally address. Oh, these coasters, they don't match. Okay, let's just kind of sort this all out.
Coaster project.
Yeah, put it in Google, Google Tasks.
Generative engine optimization. Unless you've been living under a rock, you'll be aware that this is changing how we search, how we shop, and even how we think. Cornelius and I go deep into this space, and we talk about the ramifications for business and what you as a business owner could be considering today. So if we go back 10 years ago, again now, we are doing 60% less click-throughs than we were 10 years ago.
Generative engine optimization. It's almost like a new way of approaching SEO. Less and less people are using Google search. And then obviously in the US, ChatGPT started selling right from ChatGPT.
This is a fascinating episode. It's not just talking about marketing. It's not just talking about AI. It's talking about deal doing and the opportunities one faces when they leave the entrepreneurial space as a founder. Cornelius Boertjens, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
What a pleasure to have you here.
Oh, it's a really pleasure being here.
We'll have a conversation. Let me know at the end of it if that's how it played out for you.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So interestingly, Cornelius, you're one of only 3 people that pitched themselves to me to come onto the show. You didn't know that before this, but doing some digging around in the background, it turns out that you've been got a couple of 3 podcasts over time. So my opening question for you is, are you sneakily building a bit of an empire of, Cornelius videotape content in the background, or do you just love talking about yourself?
Wow, that's such a good question. Oh, I did not expect you to bring it up.
So Cornelius,
yes,
you're most famous for the marketing space. You arrived in New Zealand from Holland in 2001.
Correct.
Let's go back to that bit of the story. What brought you from here? Why did you leave the Netherlands and come to New Zealand?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. So my wife's Dutch as well. We did kind of our OE, obviously the reverse of New Zealand. So in 98, we traveled around. We bought was really kind of a hip thing to do, around the world ticket. So you basically, but it just means you travel one way and you end up on the other side of the world, right? Which is New Zealand for Europe, right?
It is.
So went to Australia for 3 months, New Zealand 2 months, Indonesia 1 month, and then traveled around and kind of went back to the Netherlands, started kind of working in our careers after university and.
Because there would have been a gap year for you guys. So just post-study, that's a smart thing. You don't go straight to the workforce, go and do a gap year.
Yeah, that's right. Did a gap year. And, kind of like in the Netherlands, everything is really organized and controlled, right, which is kind of great if you like that kind of setup.
Yeah.
So I could already see, because my background is marketing, I did a Bachelor of Business Studies. I could see kind of my career going into kind of marketing manager, marketing director, and so on, end up at the business. And that's basically what happened to all my friends now, by the way, as well.
Yes.
It's a very linear career. And my wife and I were there's more to this, right? So so why don't we just go to New Zealand for a couple of years and see how it is? Back then, very different country, right? So that's 24 years ago. So came here and in October 2001, did over 50 job applications to get a role because we didn't have any New Zealand work experience.
Yes.
And ended up in a small insurance company as a marketing coordinator role with half the salary I was making in the Netherlands. But it was kind of gave me a start. Actually, I was hired by an English guy who was the only non-foreigner at that stage in that business. And then with me, we were the only 2. Imagine how it is now, right? If you walk into any boardroom and every meeting. It's like there's one original Kiwi.
Yes, yeah, one by birth, yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
I think we're all Kiwis if we choose to live here, by the way. We just happen to either be born here or born somewhere else. That's my mentality on it. So talk us through actually the mid to later stage, just before you had that entrepreneurial moment. So before you started Catchi, what were you doing in your corporate career?
I worked in that insurance company for a couple of years, and then at a company called Boertjens in the...
Oh, for Tony.
Yes,
right,
for Tony Falkenstein.
Okay, well, good,
right.
Good mutual friend. I didn't realize that.
Absolutely, yeah. So he back then he owned the Boertjens master franchise for New Zealand, and I was brought in to as web channel manager. Still remember the title, to actually basically make the online trading platform and work on that. And I did it for a while, and then the business direction changed, and I started to do contracting. And basically, kind of from that contracting, I looked at, okay, what's next? Do I kind of go back into a job, or do I actually kind of do something for myself? And then my wife was doing some network marketing at the time. Learned a lot from that, certainly from a sales skills point of view, and kind of learned how important good sales skills are to actually build a business, right? So every entrepreneur or founder needs to be a salesperson. Not that hard, but at least kind of know how to sell themselves. Yeah, absolutely.
And sell your ideas, right?
Absolutely.
I say to people, sorry to interrupt, but I say to people that have a resistance to the notion of selling, if you scratch the surface of that, they've got some connotations around a used car salesman or photocopier salesman. And I'm not saying that those people are necessarily bad, but they might have had an experience which was not positive for them. And so they associate it with that kind of, character set. And I say, the reality with selling is just influence. That's all it is, because you can't force someone to do something. And then I go, leadership is also just influence. And so to be an effective leader, you actually have to have some sales skills, because ultimately all you're really doing is influencing people.
Yeah.
That's my view.
Yeah.
Stephen Bartlett, speaking of him again, he says that as a founder, it's the one skill that every single founder should master is selling skills. And I agree with that. You don't need to be dedicated to selling, but you've got to be able to sell, raising money, convincing early customers, hiring people that might be in a secure job to come and join your risky venture, getting a partner in life. All of these things require sales skills.
Yeah, and we're both in a startup space, and we see there as well, like it's often it's not the best ideas that get the most funding and in the end the best exits. They often actually kind of die out sometimes, even though they're the best idea on the market. The founder can't sell it, or it doesn't have he or she doesn't have a team around them that kind of can sell the concept. Yeah, there's no point.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
So you were learning the network marketing skills, the sales skills from your wife. And so what prompted you to see the opportunity for Catchi?
It's really interesting, because it basically was kind of like a combination of what not to do. And then, have you ever heard of the T tool? So you create like if you ever want to make a decision in life, I create like a T tool, and you put all the things that you don't want on one side, because it's really easy to identify the things you don't want, right? I don't want this anymore. I don't want to be broke. I don't want to be this, or whatever that is. And then you go, okay, what's the positive side? What do I want? So we kind of had a whole list of things that we listed on that side. But I had 3 failed businesses at that stage.
Okay.
I would call like learning experiences, right? Expensive ones. And one of them was with a friend of mine. So one of the learnings was, don't start a business with a friend, because it often destroys the friendship. Well, it didn't destroy it, but it didn't work. We had lots of fun, but we lost lots of money in the process.
Can I talk about that business?
Yeah, sure.
What was that business?
Business was called The Village Square.
The Village Square?
Yeah, it was a really good concept.
Tell us.
So it was with a friend of mine called Jake Pierce. He moved back to the UK since, but brilliant mind, really good marketing and brand building. So we were creating, we're doing influencer, but that was back in 2009. So it wasn't kind of influencer marketing, but it was basically working with fans. So we were working with brand fans. So we did, for example, big Frucore project around Just Juice, and then looked at who really likes this project or this product. creating a fan base and fan group and see kind of how do we work with those people to spread the word. So it's all around word of mouth marketing. And it was really good at the time, but then we were running. I'll give you an example. So we had like a $200,000 budget to do this campaign, which is significant.
Yeah.
And then Jake wanted to do everything perfect, like perfect. So for the client, for the people attending, so it is nothing. There was no limit, right? So we had these, because Just Use is all about color. So it's like, okay, it would be really cool to have like guys with drums, and then we put paint on the drums, and then you hit the drums, and then paint splashes everywhere, and you create like artwork.
That's expensive.
Yes, it was really expensive. Really. So in the end, I think we spent about $300K, and that was just one of the projects. So in the end, I was like, after about 3 years, like, oh, and this is not financially stacking up and not working towards our goal of financial freedom.
This is so funny.
So,
I relate this to people that do their first residential housing development. And I've seen this multiple times where they build on a bit of a section and then sell it, infill housing kind of thing, or they buy a house and then do a do-up. And the first project that people do, they do it as if they're doing it for themselves. And so they put the top end spec kitchen and bathroom, as you probably know, that's where most of your money goes.
Yeah.
They don't think about the buyer category or the neighborhood that it's based in. And so they overcapitalize on a whole bunch of these things, and then they make a little bit of money, or more often than not, they actually lose money on the project because they don't think like a developer. And so what you've talked about there, and this is not to denigrate doing a wonderful job for the clients that you have, because that's super, super important, but it's got to be in what we call an economically viable model. Yeah. And so this clearly wasn't. So yeah. You learned a lot, though.
Yeah, learn a lot. Because I learned a lot from, before that, I didn't really know kind of my detail around numbers, right? And margins on projects. So I learned a lot from that. So again, like kind of going back to the T tool, looking into, okay, I don't want to work with a friend of mine anymore. Nothing, but it was kind of like, it was really hard to kind of hold each other accountable as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there was like lots of other things. So then we looked at, okay, what's like a business that is almost guaranteed to succeed? It's not like outrageous. So it's not like a software service startup, because again, that needs a lot of, obviously we all know that it needs lots of money to get started, lots of risk. It's like, I just want to have like something that is like linear growth. We've got full control. So yeah, my wife and I set it up, Catchi, in 2011, and kind of organically grew it or bootstrapped it, or whatever you want to call that. But yeah.
Did you both work in the business for the duration of the business?
No, we both worked in it until we sold it in 2018.
Okay, I'll come back to that, because there's a double sales story, and I want to
yes,
because it's a very interesting story.
Yeah.
How did you make the process, the experience work for you both of being life partners, raising a family, and having a business together? That's a lot of touch points, right? So how did you make that work for you both?
Well, it helps that we've got a really good relationship. So we kind of very much aligned. I'm probably more ambitious than my wife, but we are kind of also very much aware of that we not kind of don't hold each other back. We also set really clear rules, like in terms of rules, I would say roles within the business, right? So I would lead the business and do kind of focus on business development, and she would focus on the product or the service as such, creating that, like the delivery, training the team, and building that kind of more the operation side. And I was more kind of like external, growing the business in the beginning. So that was kind of really clear. And then we also had a rule, because the children found it really frustrating that we kept talking about business because that's the thing, right? If you have a business together, which you have as well in a way, right? So you're always kind of talking about business. So we kind of made it a rule, not at the dinner
table. Yep.
Which
or at bed as well. That's another place.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely on bed.
Yeah, we don't do any devices in bed as well. It's
good.
Been really good. So like nothing. We don't have the TV in the bedroom.
Yes.
Never bring a phone into the bedroom. So it's a kind of a quiet space. Because you need that kind of space to just
I agree.
Calm down. And that works. So kind of like, because people say, you need to separate business from your, your your personal life, but it's really hard when you run a business together. So you have to kind of almost set those rules and really kind of keep each other accountable to steer to those.
So what was the first offering of Catchi?
You mean in terms of the product?
Yeah, the product or the service that you positioned.
So we saw a kind of a tiny, New Zealand, tiny market and a tiny gap within a tiny market.
Yes.
Called conversion rate optimization. So we noticed there were lots of companies, mainly larger corporates, because that was our kind of target market, that were driving lots of traffic to websites, but they were not converting. So they were doing massive campaigns with other agencies around driving traffic to landing pages. And then you looked at those landing pages and you knew they weren't converting. So they're spending a lot of money but didn't get the return. So the kind of our angle was, and I approached many kind of obviously those websites that I knew weren't converting and said like, it's obviously not working for you. We can help. So that was kind of our angle, was helping not to drive more traffic, but to convert traffic once it comes to the website.
Yeah, got it. And so conversion rate optimization, is it what it says on the tin? It's basically making sure that, you're capitalizing on the asset that you've got. How did you do that? What was the mechanics in behind that?
Conversion rate optimization is kind of like I would say the same as search engine optimization. It's kind of like the product name, right? But in the end, it's you sell. Well, you never really sell you always sell the end benefit and the outcome, not the process. Oh yeah, absolutely. So it was kind of like people recognized the name because it was internationally used and was just coming to New Zealand a bit as well. There was a lot happening in the US and the UK, but really strong on CRO. So we looked at like a process point of view. We work with a couple of third-party tools because you need a third-party software tool to actually be able to do it.
Right.
Which you implement on your website and then you run A/B split tests. Basically, that's what it comes down to. So you need decent traffic to do it. And you say you have a landing page that has a certain content with a call to action. We say, hey, if you use a different image here, then it will convert better. And we would just create that and it will run an A/B split test. And that way we could see what converted better.
Okay, got it. And how was the early growth journey?
So interesting there was that it was a lot more education needed in the marketplace than I expected. Probably underestimated that, right? So, but I partnered with the Marketing Association and we developed a course for the Marketing Association, or we developed it and we were teaching it through the Marketing Association. And we were looking into, okay, how do you get more, return on your investment, right, from an online perspective. So that was kind of really good for us too. It's almost like paid advertising. So we were immediately credible because we're like a new brand. So you want to see how if you can build something new, it's really good to associate yourself with something that's already credible in the marketplace, which is Marketing Association, which is independent as well. So we're teaching through that. You're not allowed to do any plugs, but just by sheer of a kind of being
you're the expert,
the expert or the teacher, people go, oh, well, that person knows clearly what he's talking about. So, and we had a lot of larger corporates going to those courses. So on the back of that, we picked up ANZ and IAG as customers, which was really good.
Absolutely. Great brand.
Great brand. Small budget because it was kind of part of their experimental digital kind of budgets at that stage. But just being able to use those brands on our website and in our marketing materials, obviously that was really helpful. So that's kind of how we got started.
So the intention of building that course, did you have the view in mind that was going to be like a critical revenue line for you, or did you have it in mind as being like the Trojan horse kind of thing, which is I'll build a initial service offering, which could be like a proof of concept, or it could be a small pilot, training is a not dissimilar kind of thing, but a different kind of experience. Did you view that as being the foot in the door and you thought that it was going to lead to all the revenue? Or did you view it as being, we're going to be a training company?
The initial idea was actually to create like a proper course and sell that. Yeah. So I was like, okay, well, develop a course. And do you know Frank Kern? Yeah, he's like a digital marketing kind of online person, been around for a long time. His idea is always, you create something like same as a book, put it online, and obviously, cash coming in, right? So he's like, okay, well, we'll record this course, break it down into subjects, and set up a whole website which is what's called Traffic Conversion Pro. It's a pretty cheesy name. Anyway, but like the whole American thing. So we recorded this and I spent lots of time on it. I had it online. It's like, okay, well, now the money will coming in, will be rolling in, right? So put promotions in there, but never really kind of took off. So yes, the initial idea was to develop the course, record the course, and then sell that course online. So people are actually just paying as a subscription or membership base or one-off, whatever. We think at that stage we did a one-off thing because the subscription model wasn't really, had really taken off yet.
Right.
But yeah, so that kind of like after a while we decided like, okay, well, this training education part is more lead gen than anything. So we basically sold it into kind of corporates doing like a 1-day course, bespoke.
Yes.
No obligations, and then just got us kind of for us a way to get in and get to understand the business too. In the end, classic consultancy model, right? You kind of get a way in and then land and expand.
And expand. Yeah, we love that expression. Yeah.
So yeah, I used it that way.
Yes. So how did the expand go for you? What was the early growth like?
The early, like we really got into the more kind of experiential budget kind of realm. So we only got, which is nice on one hand because the money was there. Nobody ever needed kind of sign off on anything, but it was all smart. So it was like small. It was kind of like small chunks of money,
like 50K, 100K kind of thing.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. And we were heavily undercharging ourselves in the beginning. When you start a business, you're happy somebody pays you kind of $100.
It's amazing that anyone's paid you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. They're paying us?
Yeah. And then you look back 3 years later for what you were charging, you're like, how did I eat?
Absolutely. How was there even margin in it?
Yeah.
Because you get your offers and everything else.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we started off charging like $1,000 a month or $1,500 a month. At these big corporates, right? And I think it was only at that level, it was so low that they were thinking like, oh, this just can't be good, right? It's just not enough.
Yes.
So, and then we decided, okay, well, let's just increase the minimum pricing, which we did to 5K a month, which was interesting enough. All of a sudden we had more demands. There's kind of like hindsight is a beautiful thing, but we got then became more of a serious thing to consider. And then it became more part of established marketing budgets, which is kind of good because we used it as if you spend, say you've got like $1 million in marketing budget per year, just for sake of simplicity, spend 900K on driving traffic with Google or Facebook or whatever, drive the traffic, and then 10% of the budget with looking at the conversion side of things. It's still small, but, and that really we were really hammering down that message 90-10.
Yes.
And that kind of allowed us to get, the 100K type of budgets, which was kind of good.
Yes.
It allowed us to build the business.
Pricing psychology is fascinating. And your observation there is one that I have nearly all the time with early stage, especially services, but not exclusively services companies, is that they drastically undercharge for the thing and they end up being categorized in a position in the market that's not necessarily even where they want to be.
Yeah.
And there's a thing that goes on in enterprise especially where if it is too cheap, they don't value that thing. And they also put you in a category, like a perceived category, real or otherwise, that is, if they're that cheap, they can't be any good. Kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that's another thing that sits in behind it. There was a famous story, and this is about product, and someone will probably fact check me on this, but when we're car guys, so the 944 was released by Porsche in the 1980s in the United States, and it was going to be a similar price point to the 911, which was their, at that stage, premium product. Still continues to be. And so what they decided to do was, well, let's just double the price of the 911 and then we can slot the 944 in at the price that the 911 was going to be. And despite not being a ultimately successful vehicle for them, what it did is enable them to push themselves into a different pricing category, because essentially it was a high quality, German designed and engineered car that they put into there. And doubling the price ended up seeing them increase the sales by 30%, because they moved from being like a low end of the market sports car into being, top end sports car kind of category, not supercar. They probably didn't exist at that stage, but they completely shifted the positioning of their product.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So how long did it take you to get to 7 figures?
3 years.
But it's pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. What was like a key moment? Was there like winning a couple of really big like key customers that enabled you to get them into the, $250,000 jobs kind of thing? Or was there, what did the layout of your customer map look like?
The key was at some stage where I kind of made the decision to hire some really good people to do the work. And then for me to kind of go like full out on sales.
Yeah. Okay.
So basically I didn't do any of the work myself anymore. Because people ask me like, oh, so you know everything about CRO? It's like, no, but
Did 15 years ago.
Yeah, I did, but it's probably changed now. But I know how to build an agency.
Yes.
So that's kind of like a very different thing. And so that's kind of like I like started focusing on, and I think that's where the shift comes from. If you as a business owner or a solopreneur kind of then decide to make it a big business and see your business as a proper business, then you start thinking differently as well. And you kind of start to put like people in place and systems in place and do all those wonderful things that allow you to actually scale. And then we've kind of like, started leveraging existing clients. Obviously we kept those. That was really helpful because we did great work. And once you get a bit of the momentum, they start talking to other people and peers in the industry and go, hey, we've got some good results. So we got more and more inbound leads as well at that stage.
Yeah, great. Yeah. And you ended up with offices overseas. You had a Sydney and Melbourne office, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us about the international growth.
Yeah. So interesting enough, like our aim was always to build and sell. And I know that a lot of people say, well, I want to build my business and never sell it. But we never really wanted this business to be like a retirement kind of thing in terms of like working until retirement on that business.
Yeah. What drove that decision early on for you?
It's just kind of, a couple of things. First, the excitement of, is it actually possible to build something and then build it in such a way that somebody else comes and say, this is really good, I'll buy it, which is kind of like, for a business person, the ultimate recognition, in my opinion. And again, it's personal, for everybody's different. But it's kind of like you build something that somebody else wants and they see value in. So it's like, why don't we just build it to sell? And we'll see if we sell it, it's great. If not, at least we've got something that's scalable.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like how we approach it. So then you kind of, if you then look at, build to sell, where do we want to be? What do we want the sale price to be like at a minimum? And we were also aware that kind of like we were in a niche market, so it wouldn't be kind of like a massive exit, right? Not like software as a service, those type of multiples, although even they've come down a bit now as well. But it's then you kind of look, almost kind of go back to the beginning and go, okay, well, you look back and say, well, if that's where we want to be, what are the steps we need to take to get there? And we knew that international agencies, that was kind of like our exit. We thought that would be our exit, and it was in the end. They're only buy agencies that do not only have a New Zealand presence. It's not always the case, but it was kind of like a more of a sure kind of thing.
Yeah.
So we looked, okay, well then obviously our natural kind of next move is Australia. So hence we kind of, I went there almost every month for at least a week, setting up a business in Australia. And like every Kiwi knows, like it's a very different market, and everybody including myself, everybody underestimates like how different
time is, the cost and the difference.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the attitude, right? It's very different. In New Zealand, you can ask somebody, hey, do you know such and such? Oh yeah, I'll do an intro. And before you know it, you've got like a meeting with the CEO of whatever company you want to talk to. But in Australia, it's far more, I would say, European or American, where it's more like, okay, you got 50 minutes. What are you selling? It's like, okay. And you put on, like, luckily I've got that background because I'm Dutch, but you need to be pitching like really quickly, and it's not a lot of chit chat.
Yeah. I'll come back to that. So just want to kind of pick up the point that you made about being intentioned at the start of your business about the exit. And that was the plan from the outset.
Yeah.
And what I say to people is that one day you will exit your business. Because you'll either have to step out through retirement, or you'll have an event that will see you be forced to sell that business, or you might choose to engage in a sale process. And so one day you're not going to be in the business. That's just the brutal reality. If you have the great fortune to build a company that lasts for 50 years at some stage, you're still not going to be the CEO of that company.
Yeah.
And so I call it, you will exit your business, whether or not you're thinking about it at this point in time. It'll either be by default or by design. And so the choice is yours. And so then the add-on to that is to say, the best time to think about your exit is when you start the company, and the second best time is today.
Yeah, it's right.
It's today, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so I really laud you for the fact that you thought about that from the outset. So just back to the differences between Australia and New Zealand, I haven't talked about this on the show. So you've got that time factor. So it's very direct. And what are you here for? What do you want from me? They may not directly ask you that, but that's the implication of the question. You've got a need to prove yourself a lot more earlier on. And I also found, this is my experience, and whilst I'm saying this, be curious as to what other things you might add to this. And I'm not sure about the Dutch, but Kiwis can be a little bit reticent to claim our achievements. The whole modesty, don't shout from the rooftops kind of thing. How we did this project over here, but we're not really going to talk about it. And, you go to Australia, and the States is the same. And you've got to shout and claim and beat your chest and say how amazingly wonderful you are, because everyone else is doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And if you don't do it, no one's going to do it for you. And by the way, the buyer on the other side of the table will believe half of what you say because everyone else is embellishing around you. And this is where we particularly fall down in the States and Australia to a certain extent, is that we play ourselves down and then they discount that by half. And so all of a sudden we appear quarter as good as we really are. And the reality is we've kind of got to talk ourselves up. That was my experience. Did you have a similar kind of thing in Australia?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think I would add to that, like what New Zealand does is you're very, basically we say like we halve an achievement and then the other person will double it again. Yeah. So that's kind of like how we communicate here, right? So, oh yeah, we've done an okay job. And you go, oh, they must have done an amazing job because they're so, humble about it. But you're absolutely right. So we had to, one thing that we did, so initially I tried to build it myself, which is not a really good idea.
As in you were the key salesperson?
Yeah, going over there because you have to be in the market. So either move there or like what we did in the end was I asked around and then via a third-party provider, like a CRO software provider, we said like, who's a really good person in the market that's kind of currently looking for a new opportunity. So we got somebody from a well-established agency who was a kind of the key development manager there and offered her 25% in the Australian business. In the end, she didn't want to have the percentage in the business, but we basically made the agreement because he was kind of basically very frank with her as well. So we built to sell. Say, well, whatever happens, you get 25% of the exit price for the Australian business.
No.
In the end, honored as well when we sold it.
Yes. So that's like a shadow equity scheme.
That's right. Yeah, just on paper. So no kind of shares, but you'll get the money. So that gave that person skin in the game. Really kind of 25% is a decent chunk as well. We still had the control and kind of like share ourselves, and we were doing all the work kind of in New Zealand in the beginning. So that really worked because then I was there with her going to clients, but then while I was in New Zealand, she would continue building kind of, and in the beginning it was pretty much like she was like, I think a country manager or whatever we called her, but it was kind of pretty much business development in Australia with her existing contacts, and we were doing the work in New Zealand until a certain level where we needed people to actually be on the ground in Australia.
Yeah. And in the Australian business, same question. How long did it take you to get to 7 figures over there?
Interesting enough, we never got to 7 figures in Australia. Yeah. So because we started in 2015.
Yes.
And it was just really, really hard work.
Yeah.
So then we looked at, okay, what's our play with Australia? We want to have okay income from it. But actually it turned out it was more important to say that we were operating in Australia.
Yeah.
And we were just starting, and it's like, okay, what can a small agency do that gets the attention of the bigger ones? So basically looking into what can a small agency do to be kind of like, playing with and it's just taking a little bit of their revenue and being annoying. It's kind of that being an annoying itch.
Yes.
So they were starting to kind of, what's this agency that's starting to eat into our and into our revenue and profits with other kind of like large. So we got Aussie Home Loans as a customer,
Yes.
a couple of big insurance companies. We're only doing really small jobs, but they didn't really know that. They just knew that we were growing in that market.
Yes.
So yeah, that's kind of like when the conversation started with that in the end led to the exit. It actually started from Australia because we were just getting annoying.
Yes. Yes. So did they directly approach you about the acquisition talks, or did you engage with an advisor? How did that early conversation go?
It went directly. So yeah, I'm never really kind of a big fan of brokers or that kind of model, because it kind of says that you want to sell your business versus somebody else coming to you. It's a way stronger profile if you say, well, we're not for sale.
Yeah.
But if you want to buy us, then we're open to the conversation. So it actually came via Google. So we were a Google marketing platform sales partner in Australia and New Zealand. And Google was approached by the Havas group, who in the end acquired us. And they were looking for which is funny, but they were looking for an optimization agency. And they basically asked, hey, well, who do you think is good fit? And then Google in Australia said like, oh, have a chat to the Catchi people.
Right.
So they approached us, which was really helpful. And it was a good timing as well. And they already knew us because we were kind of doing a couple of white label jobs for them. So that was also kind of like well set up, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
And so they approached you, would you be interested? We're not selling, but let's have a conversation. So how did you move from that to a real conversation about numbers? Did you kind of, well, we're not selling, but if you give us a number that's going to be compelling, we'll talk to you or present us with an offer letter? How did you navigate that? And did you get someone else to help you through those conversations?
No, we didn't actually. We didn't get any help. Well, we had got like legal help and all those kind of things. But we basically started to have conversations with CFO, and then he said like, okay, we'll present to the full management team in Sydney what your business is all about. It's like, oh yeah, we can do that. So we flew to Sydney, but to actually present. When the great thing was when we flew to Sydney, apparently there was another agency that kind of heard that we were looking at selling. Mm-hmm. That's when it gets interesting, right?
Pay attention.
Yes, that's right. So it's like, okay, wait a second. If we can get another offer, then you multiples will increase. So I don't know, I can't mention the name, but there was a very large agency.
Like global or Australian?
Global.
Yeah, okay.
But based in Australia, had an office in Australia. So the Australian office approached us and said like, hey, when you're in Australia to pitch these guys, can you also come over to pitch to our guys? Which we did. So we kind of like decided we were flying back on a Friday, and when they said like pitch on Friday, so we moved our flights and we just rushed in, did the same, just quickly switched out the logos, with the same pitch, which was really kind of, it was really interesting to do that. And all of a sudden you go like, hey, this can actually lead to something that is way more interesting than it initially looked like. Not like getting a bidding war, but you get some tension, deal tension, always good.
Perceived or real, it has just so much value in terms of the outcome for the seller or the vendor.
Yes.
And so did you get offers from both companies, or was it enough for the original company that they were kind of pushed into the place of going, we need to move on this?
Yeah, we got verbal offers from both.
Yeah.
And then we said like, we want to see like an LOI, right? Letter of intent. And then Havas moved really quickly on that because they obviously, but we're doing quite a lot of work for them already.
Yes.
So if we would have gone with the other agency, but we obviously didn't say that at the time, then we would have a lot of the revenue that they took into account in terms of the multiples actually coming from referrals that they gave us.
Yeah.
So we would have taken that out for the other agency. So I think that in the end, that deal, well, we looked at the numbers and then whatever they were going to offer didn't work out as well.
Yeah.
But not only that, like Havas offered is a very entrepreneurial business, and they offered us kind of full independence still. The whole promise was to do kind of set up a center of excellence in New Zealand, and then do work globally from New Zealand. Okay, but that never really materialized. But at least we had like our independence, and the other agency wanted to integrate us within one of their kind of New Zealand-based agencies, and me reporting to somebody else.
Right.
Which never really works for me.
Yeah.
So in the end, that deal, the LOI, came through in December 2017. Yeah.
Yep.
But that was after 6 months probably of
backwards and forwards.
Forwards.
Quite some time.
Yeah, and that was just the beginning of the whole thing, right?
Yeah, of course. You've got Daddy after that. We'll come back to that.
Yeah.
Hey, legend. Thanks for your ears. I really appreciate you listening to the show. Everything improves through feedback. I'd be really grateful if you could head to my website, joshcomrie.com, just click on the podcast link and fill out a 2-minute survey, which will give me the insights around the things that you're enjoying about the show and where you would like us to go more into the future. It'll take less than 2 minutes. I'd be really grateful. And you'll also receive some free resources should you share your email address with us. Thanks so much and enjoy the rest of the show. How did they value the business? And that's not necessarily a number question. I'm interested to know that if you're comfortable to share it.
Yeah.
But was it a EBIT multiple? Was it a revenue multiple? What was that number? And, anything you're comfortable to share with us, Cornelius?
Yeah, so they valued it 2 ways. So they looked at Australia and New Zealand.
Yeah.
And this was really interesting from I was like, that learning experience was just worth way more than we got good money for it, but learned so much. So what they did was they of multiple of EBIT, and they had like a standard calculation. So they did 2 times the last quarter current, whenever it finished financial year, and then 1 times the one before divided by 3. That would be the normalized kind of EBIT.
Yeah.
Times whatever the multiple was, right?
Yeah.
The interesting thing is, and I've the normalized, so they actually put I obviously, being cheeky, and a lot of business owners do this, they take off their own salary.
Yeah.
They say, now, which makes sense to me now, it's like normalized, so your salary needs to be in there, and it's fair.
There's to be a salary in there for a manager. Yeah.
For a manager.
Mm-hmm.
So in the end, we worked on the numbers and we worked on the formula, and that was kind of for the New Zealand business. They wanted to buy 60% up front.
Yeah. In cash.
60%
good.
Cash,
Yeah.
which is good. And then we had an earnout and a buyout. And the earnout was 2 years. So basically every year they looked at kind of, okay, well, what if you put the same formula in place and look at the same multiple, what's the value of the business now? If it's less, then we didn't have to pay money back, which is good. If it more, we would get more money.
Right.
So, and we did grow, certainly kind of that second year, and we got a bit more kind of money in the earnout phase.
Yep.
But I had like a really long buyout, and that's kind of another learning. I had like 5 years, 2022. The end of 2022 was actually when we kind of finally did the buyout. And they had like a same formula there as well. So for that 40%, it was just different percentage, but same kind of like looking at the valuation. And that's kind of when we sold the last 40%. That was the New Zealand business. Interesting enough, it's like when you have an Australian New Zealand business, we had a separate Australian entity, which was a limited partnership to get around dual taxation.
Oh, yeah.
Because we didn't have all the revenue and the profit was basically moved back to New Zealand, so there wasn't really kind of any value as such in the business, but they gave us a cash payment because that entity held the Google license, which was also really important to them. Right. Now, and this where kind of like it gets interesting. Australia, you pay capital gains tax.
Yes.
And not in New Zealand.
Yes.
So we basically didn't get, on paper, we didn't get any money for the Australian business. We just got more money for the New Zealand business.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
To offset that.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which enabled you to get the outcome that you wanted from a price recognized perspective, but not deal with the fairly hungry ATO, Australian tax office.
That's right. Absolutely. Yeah. They didn't even know that we didn't have capital gains tax in New Zealand, which is interesting. So, but then obviously with our accountants who worked out the deal and lawyers, and that worked out in everybody's favor.
Yeah. Can you just pull apart that buyout piece for me? So we've got the earnout, which means that you've got your share of the growth of the profit over time in the business, but you've separated this piece out for the buyout, and that's not a normal thing for people to do. So what was the buyout, and how did that work?
So because it was such a small business, to keep basically kind of to protect their investment, they wanted to kind of have the owner be involved, and also you basically tied in. It's like not even a handshake. It's like you're still your business partners for a while. So they allocated it 40%, and they structured it in such a way that there was a call option after 5 years. Yeah, call option after 5 years, and a put after 6. So that means that we could say, okay, we're now kind of calling it, we want to sell our remaining 40%.
Yes.
And we had to say, indicate that in the financial years, January to December, indicate in May that we want to sell, and then that would be the end of the financial year. We basically get the payment based on the formula. And then after the 6th year, they could actually say, well, no, you have to sell your shares. And we could still do the call, and that was every year. But yeah, so that's kind of like how we exited.
Yes. And so how did it play out in practicality? So you went to 2022, so that's 5 years post the original deal being done and the check being received. And so what happened at that stage? Did you follow through and they purchased the rest of the shares from you?
Yeah. So we kind of knew that 5 years is a long time. That was a long time. So like 3 years in, I was like about to throw in the towel.
And you would have left 20% on the table, or was it the entire 40?
The entire 40.
Wow.
Yeah, that was right. Yeah, basically. And I was like ready to say, well, take it. I can't deal with it anymore. And then COVID hit. And then obviously we all got free money. Yes.
Well, we're paying it back now, but
that's right. That's right. Nothing is free, right? So we're definitely paying it big with interest at the moment. But it's kind of like at that stage, I don't know, like serendipity. So about to not throw in the towel, but I was looking into really exiting. I had like sent them a message saying like, this not work for me anymore. Can I put like another CEO in? Happy to, don't get my salary, and then we'll just do the buyout in another way. And then when COVID hit, the investments in digital ramped up like crazy. Everybody was like pumping money into digital. So what happened was that our profit went double or triple. I laugh about it now, but it was obviously a painful period for other reasons. But yeah, so we obviously had, and then you look at those last 2 years, so 22 twice, 21 once, and those were kind of, financially, they were really good years.
Yeah, amazing. So a big sweetener on the way out the door.
Big swinger on the way out.
Yeah.
So we got a lot more for that 40% than we got for our initial 60%.
Yeah, okay.
But, like hindsight, I think 5 years is too long. So it can, now it's easy to say, oh yeah, that was really good. But mentally, it was really, really tough.
Yeah.
Once you kind of get over the honeymoon period, which lasts probably a couple of months, and you do all your crazy stuff that you want to do.
Go and buy a silly car, go and have an expensive...
Yes, still not a silly car.
Perfect. Excellent.
But anyway, do all the things you want to do, and then you go, got everything on my vision board.
Yeah.
Which we did. We built a pool and then all the other stuff.
Yes.
And then you kind of go, well, yeah, I'm still running this business. I still need to go in every day. But, the team still relies on me in terms of income, because the business wasn't kind of like, they would pretty much leave us to ourselves.
Yes.
We didn't own any of the Australian business anymore. That was kind of completely 100% kind of sold or, handed over. So yeah, it was tough to kind of keep that going, but then you kind of like settle into the rhythm as well, and you go, okay, well, now I kind of need to prolong. And then that period came, and then COVID came, and we couldn't really do anything anyway. So it's just everybody's just working from home.
Yeah.
And pretty much working non-stop because there was nothing else to do. Going for a walk around the block. And but yeah, so like looking back, if I would ever do it again, I think either exit straight away or maybe maximum 1 year.
Yeah. For a services company, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
I've got a philosophy around it. I think that for most people, most of us who go out into the really challenging world of being an entrepreneur and starting a business and something from nothing kind of thing. We do it with the notion in mind of pursuing freedom. And we conflate that freedom quite quickly with financial freedom. And that may be part of the drive at the outset, but I actually think for a lot of us, it's freedom of choice and freedom of independence. So especially for, the very extreme versions of entrepreneurs and the ones that are doing multiple startups and you're onto your second or third, or fourth or fifth because you had those 2 or 3 that didn't work out at the start.
Yeah.
So you're coming back around, and we'll get back to that in a second. And so we do it because we don't like the constraints and the restrictions of working for another person, either because they're a boss or because we think that we can do it better or because we want to exercise our creativity. And it could be all of those things as well. And so when we go through the process of doing a long earnout, you've got to make sure there's so many things that line up for that thing to be successful. You've got to have a values alignment. So you've got to make sure that we are aligned in how we view the world and how we behave out in the world. We've got to have a vision alignment. So the thing that we are heading towards is the same thing. Otherwise, we're going to be pulling at different ways in different directions. We've got to make sure that our operating rhythms are comfortable and aligned. So how you want to run the business is kind of not dissimilar to how I want to run the business. And if yours is better, then I'm happy to go and follow through and do it the way that you are, because I'll learn something along the way. We've got to align with there's a couple of other things as well. There's how we bring the culture to life inside the business. There's a myriad of different things. And if any one of those things is not there, it's not present, then it becomes a pretty miserable existence for the founder, for the entrepreneur to go and kind of have that. So, for you to last that long is actually a bit of a testament to itself. It seems as if you weren't that happy, but then you're kind of like, I can live with it because my earnout's increasing quite markedly and I'm getting more for the 40 than I was for the 60. And so these are okay. Is that kind of what was going on for you?
Yeah, that's right. But it's kind of like when it just becomes financial, it's still tough going. Like I'm very financially driven, but even that, it's it just makes it really, really hard. Like, and the good thing is we build a really good team. So you kind of start more looking into, okay, well, at least kind of have a great team to work with. And you just need to kind of look at it differently, I think, and just create it differently for yourself, that experience, to make it as pleasant as possible.
Yeah.
It sounds really bad, but it's
Yeah, no, it's tough. I get it. So 2023, is that when you walked out of the building?
So no, because I wanted to take a sabbatical, which basically means I wanted to take like a couple of months traveling through Europe. Like I've got my wife and I have 2, one is at uni now, but children that like 19 and 17. At that stage they were 17 and 15. So we're looking into, okay, let's take them to Europe and then travel around for a bit and actually show them Europe. Because every time we went back to the Netherlands, we just kind of there visiting family and friends, but never really when they were, it was like going in and out, a couple of weeks and then back to New Zealand. So took them out of school for a term, which is kind of
amazing.
You can do that in New Zealand.
Yes.
Not legally allowed to do it in the Netherlands. So that worked out well. Travel around, and that was in the New Zealand winter 23. So my deal with Havas was like, I'll stay on for a bit longer, and then make the sabbatical happen. And they paid me kind of a good salary, and I was just salary. But anyway, it doesn't matter. It worked for me at the time, just to take a bit more mental time off, just to kind of take that 4 months off, and then we came back, and then I wanted to go again to Europe the year after. So it made that was 7 weeks. So I made kind of a similar arrangement. And then I was like, oh, well, now I really have to stop, because you kind of get comfortable being uncomfortable. It's just weird kind of, I don't know, it's just a weird kind of state.
We don't have a commitment in terms of a business or a job to go to, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. It was really good to experience it, because I know it's all feelings, right? And feelings have real power. That's I'm like a strong believer of, kind of you're tuning into the, why am I feeling this? But it was kind of like I was very complacent. I just BAU, just keeping the business going, and it was comfortable. But comfortable mediocrity for me, I was really not putting myself out my comfort zone. I was very much in my comfort zone. So that's kind of when I said to them, like, I really have to go. So August 24, I actually finished up. So
I'll share my experience. I had a round birthday. I won't say which one it was, but it was a round number birthday a couple of years ago. And I'd returned from Sydney in 2020, and I'd done my succession planning within Ambit at that stage. So I was chair of the board, but I wasn't operational as CEO. And very relieved that was the case, because then we were kicked into COVID, which was challenging and exciting for different reasons. And so I then we got married, Tina and I. Not that I had too much to do with the organisation of that wedding, but I pretended that I did. And so at the start of 21, we couldn't travel. And I'd immersed myself in the presidency of EO. And my investment portfolio takes up somewhere between 10 to 25 hours, depending on what's going on, which bit of the portfolio. Property, set and forget, but there's always projects that need to be done at different times, and startup investing, which I want to come back to in a second with you, that kind of dialed up for me. And I'd had an exit out of a thing, so I had a bunch of money that was available, and I ended up making the 5 to 10, maybe 12 hours a week of actual work that I had to do. I made that into 40 hours a week. Because, the thing of the work that we have to do fills the time that's available to do that work. And I'm in the process of booking a time to get the book launch resolved, 2 commas, the book launch, which is coming out in late November. And one of the venue hosts I know quite well, and she's like, how do you find all the time to do this? And I said, if you want something done, give it to a busy person, because of, full life, plenty of things to do, etc. And so I had become that unbusy person. And so I was really busy running around the place doing all this nothing, right? And I didn't have any of the meaningful challenges. And so I got to this big round birthday, 30. It wasn't 30. And so I got to this big round birthday, and I just had a conversation with myself. And I said, you know very well at this point in time what the last 3 years has looked like. Do you want the next 3 years to be the same? And it was a very, very quick and easy answer for me. Hell no. I hadn't progressed the book at that stage. I'd even started writing the first book, and I've written the second one, publishing the second, and I'll go back to the first at some stage. And I had had a couple of exits out of the portfolio, but I hadn't built anything meaningful myself. And I think you're a builder, right? You're a start build guy like I am. And so that is innately satisfying to people like us and most of the people that are watching and listening to the show. There's some deep satisfaction from it. It's bloody hard, right? It's the most difficult thing I think you'll possibly have to do in life, is to take something from, create something from nothing. But when you don't have it in your life, it you lack a bit of direction. You meander around the place. You might get to the stage of going, I'm lacking purpose in life, which is a bit hollow. Mark Twain says the 2 greatest days of a man's life are the day that he was born and then the day he finds out why.
Yeah.
And, for builders, that's kind of part of the thing, right? So was that your journey when you kind of left eventually at the end?
Yeah, I said to my wife, take 6 months off, right? I would do nothing. I just want to have the experience of no commitment. And it lasted 5 months, but it was really unpleasant. But great to do, because you kind of get to know yourself really well. So the first couple of weeks, I was creating lists of all the stuff I can do around the house.
Yeah.
People I can see, things I can finally address. And really important things like fixing a little thingy on a little latch. Yeah, get screws and miter 10. Drive all the way there for 2 screws and drive back. Completely inefficient, but it didn't matter, right? So you kind of have the whole kind of thing, and then I think probably a couple of months, I think month 3, my wife's you really need to do something else, because I got really, little things, I would say oh, these coasters, they don't match. Okay, let's just kind of sort this all out.
Coaster project.
Yeah, put it in Google, kind of, Google Tasks.
Got a graph, all the options, international, you're rating all the different coasters.
Absolutely. And I spent hours and hours and then doing those kind of things.
Meaningless shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that kind of got really out of proportion. I think it's something that really hit me. It's okay, well, people kept saying to me no, you need some time off and ground. But I don't know. I mean, maybe I haven't tried hard enough, but I don't ground in doing nothing. I obviously have to be careful not being busy, but you have to be busy with the right things. And what are the right things? That's probably what for everybody that's different. But I actually found some really good satisfaction in like building and like kind of and being involved in business. Like somebody asked me the other day, you're probably the same. Why are you still doing this? Right? Because it is hard. Like I'm now looking at like potentially buying another business or building another business and go, wow, you don't have to do all that stuff.
Yeah.
So, but I really want to.
That's why I'm here.
Yeah, that's why I'm here.
Yeah.
It's what makes me get up in the morning and get excited. And I think that 999 out of 1,000 people do not understand that. And I probably, for the first time, I just turned 50 a couple of months ago. Now I'm kind of like fine with that. But I used to be always kind of have to kind of almost defend myself and justify why. But now I go, well, that's just how I tick. And I know not enough people that are actually built in a similar way that I can, like yourself, I do relate to and I can actually talk to.
Yeah, which would certainly help.
Share kind of experiences.
Yeah. I've got a thing that I picked up along the way, and it's that in our lives, we need a mix of things that are deeply satisfying and going really well. We need some niggles and some things that are unresolved. We need some meaningful challenges to lean into. We need some projects. We need some connection. We need a variety of different types of things. And so what I've learned is that if you don't have a like meaningful challenge to lean into, like a problem that you're trying to solve for, then what you do is you make the coasters the problem, right?
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden the coasters is a really meaningful project. And you start stressing about the coasters and you're worried about them and you've got to get the decision point right and you've got the $39.99, is that the price point or is it $139.99 and the right design and you've got to match with the drapes and whatever else. And so you make this thing as important as growing a business or settling your new CEO into the company or entering a new market. And so the point being that we make a problem out of something that's not a problem. So the best thing to do is actually go and find a really meaningful problem to solve. Tony Robbins calls it, if you're worrying about small things, if you're sweating the small stuff, go and get a better quality of problem to solve, right? Because you're going to have a problem in your life anyway. So you may as well make it a good problem to solve.
Yeah.
That's my philosophy.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I now look at business like a puzzle. So, and whether it's like 1,000 pieces or like a little kid's puzzle or whatever it is, but you kind of like start with the kind of the border first. I mean, that's how I end it now. Do you have a puzzle?
I know puzzles.
Yeah, jigsaw puzzles, right? And you start with the border first. If like a business,
I terrible at puzzles.
Yeah, but I love puzzles. Like,
okay.
But I love them for the same reason I love business. It's like you do the kind of the foundation, which is kind of like the outside.
Yeah.
And then you make sure you kind of understand what needs to be inside that puzzle. And you also know what's not part of that puzzle, right?
Yeah.
And then you go, that's the business. That's kind of like how it needs to look like. And then you kind of like start putting like the pieces in. And it's like whether it's like color clusters, which can be like your leadership team or your product, or it can be like your customers or sales. There's also kind of like different parts that are kind of like need to be addressed all the time. It's like everything, it's always kind of moving. But in a puzzle, it's like, luckily it's not, it's static. So, and then that's how I work. Like the more you get into it and you can see how it's like how it's taking shape, the more addictive it gets.
Yeah.
And that's the same for me with business. You kind of go, ooh, I know what we can do here. And then you kind of go, oh, I'll work this with this. And so yeah, that's kind of like how I get sucked into that.
We had a conversation over, it was probably about 18 months ago, and you'd had the exit money had come through. I'd had an exit out of something that I'd invested in. And we expressed the same sentiment to each other, which is we perhaps wrote too big a checks for too many things. So let's talk about investing over COVID. For you, I'm not sure if you look back and rationalized it. What do you still feel the same way? And if so, what happened?
Yeah, I mean, I still remember that when I joined Flying Kiwi Angels in 2018 after I got the initial check, right? And the funny thing is, it's not funny actually, it's really painful. It's funny and I go, yeah, still I kind of grin, not laugh. You kind of look at, when you sell and this is like kind of an entrepreneur's kind of pitfall. So you sell your business and all of a sudden you think you're the man or woman. I'm an investor. Yeah. I know how this thing works. I know all businesses.
I've got an entire chapter in my book about this.
Yeah, oh good. Well, that's probably be like a chapter that a lot of people should read. Yeah, absolutely. I wish I read. But so I kind of like had conversations with people and I started like kind of like spending money, like investing money But yeah, that were really, really, really bad investments in the end. And I lost a lot of money with those initial investments. And even though some senior investors said like, don't do it, take your time. It's like, why? This is like too good to be true. I have to jump in now. Otherwise I'll miss the opportunity of a lifetime. But no. But yeah, so that was kind of like and then you never get a return. Like, it's like, you don't even get pleasure from that. It's just pain.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if it's, the only learning I got from it is don't jump into things that quickly. But because it's not your own business, you actually don't really learn that much from it either. So it's like a very expensive one-off lesson.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think one of the enduring lessons, certainly that I've had from angel investing particularly, as well as it's so high risk, is that start small, and if they go well and if they meet their objectives, you can always put another check in, and it probably won't be too much more expensive than the first time around. But even if it is a little bit more expensive, you've de-risked the whole thing because they've proven that they can get product market fit and they can grow economically. But often nearly always, that doesn't happen to be the case. And so they come back for another check in 12 months, 24 months time, and the price is often the same and they haven't hit their number. And you're like, wow, that money's really, really depreciated because of the time value of money. So has that impacted upon how you now invest and look upon investing?
Yeah, I'm definitely more conscious. I'm still take risks because I think without risks, you don't really get the return, right? So still definitely, I'm completely fine with taking risk, but I'm way more aware of it now. So I kind of have a more diversified portfolio. Sounds like a big word, but it's definitely I look better at DD and numbers, and I know kind of like in startups you can look at all the DD. In the end, it doesn't really matter, even though because there's examples of, and I know that with FKA we do rigorous DD. You look at all the numbers, and I've been on boards. And it looks like perfect on paper. Even the people, right? This is kind of like meant to be. Can't go wrong. And those things often do go wrong. And then you got like another startup that you go, I don't know, like I just take a punt. And something happens, they take off, they get one contract. And then before you know it, like they're the unicorn. So it's really hard. Like I think it's with startups, so you kind of just have to, it's just a numbers game. And it's very different with other businesses. So how I kind of invest now.
Yeah, I have the same view. There's, kind of an FKA we look deeply at, I think it's 8 variables from recollection. And so those are what we deem to be the most important 8. We don't dwell a lot on timing, which I think is a thing that we perhaps underinvest in from an analysis standpoint, because timing is the most important thing. But timing is such a subjective thing because timing means what does the technology evolution look like in the space? What's the customer preference? What is the competitive landscape? And you've got to have actually some quite deep inside knowledge to be able to assess timing effectively because not everyone's Steve Jobs, right? Steve told the world that we needed to have a touchscreen phone that had a keyboard on it and we could watch television and play games and all these things. And so there's only one Steve Jobs, let's be honest. There's been a couple that have been able to do immense, Elon Musk is another one, but they're entrepreneurs of generations. So for the rest of us, we're, deemed to stick into the critical aspect of timing. But then there's another kind of dozen factors or so that will denote that startup success. And so let's say you're assessing 20 factors, which is almost impossible to keep contiguously in mind at the same time and assess that effectively. So, spread a bit of money around, don't spray and pray, do the assessment, work with a team of people, play the odds, start small and grow. That's probably the simple formula for angel investing. So what kind of businesses are you looking at buying?
Looking to, I made an offer on a business last week. But that didn't continue because somebody else made a better offer.
Okay.
Happens, right? So
was that through a broker or
yes.
Through? Yeah. Okay. Right. So they were playing the odds and yep.
Yeah, which is interesting. And I kind of like reflected on that because my offer was kind of very fair. Good business, like, Warren Buffett, right? Buy great businesses at fair valuation. It's some kind of like belief in because it's a good business and it's been like built over many, many years. So it's kind of like good, kind of well-established business. But the brokers, they take out the proprietary's salary and go, well, that's EBIT. I was like, well, no, it's not because I'm an investor. And that's a big difference. And that was another learning for me. So somebody, I want to not run and be in the business all day. I'm happy to spend time on the business, but somebody else needs to run it. So that I need to pay that money, and basically, so that for me that's not EBITDA. And also didn't work for me with Catchi either, right? So they took my salary into account as well. But because there are a lot of people, obviously roles being made redundant, there's a lot of demand for these type of businesses. So somebody snapped it up, like just paid whatever there was asked.
Interesting.
Asking price, EBITDA, and they're happy to pay themselves kind of a small salary and then do it that way. But then all of a sudden the multiples, really when you then look at the multiples on kind of, in my opinion, normalized accounts, they're through the roof. So I don't know, like how that doesn't work for me, and obviously works for somebody else.
Yeah. Do you think that the route to market is through the broker channel, or is it direct, or is it through M&A, or?
Yeah, well, kind of for a buyer like me, it's not through broker channel ideally. So I need to kind of be more proactive going forward, which I will be, because I'm looking to doing a roll up.
Yeah, okay.
In the agency space. This was like kind of an activation agency, but it can also be, there's lots of movement in that space, certainly kind of now with AI, and lots of uncertainties. But I still believe that the right agency has kind of like, there's a long-term demand, but it needs to be structured in a certain way. So yeah, looking at doing a roll up, and so that's kind of what I'm, but you're not through the broker channel anymore. Like I'm going to approach a couple of people directly from now on.
Yeah. I suspect I've not purchased a business historically, sold a number, but haven't purchased yet. I suspect it's one of those things where you probably have to go through the approach, the evaluation, the non-binding indicative offer letter kind of thing a few times before you get it right. And, as you said before about selling Catchi, your business, there was so much that you learned along the way. And so be an exciting journey to go on. I wish you the best of luck. You mentioned AI, GEO or AIEO. Is that something that you're across? You've come from a marketing background. Do you have any commentary on that could be interesting for people to hear?
Yeah, it's kind of really interesting. I did a CEO kind of contract recently with an SEO agency, kind of moving to the GEO space, right? To look at generative engine optimization. So basically, kind of, it's almost like a new way of approaching SEO. I think that less and less people are using Google search. And if you use Google search, you get like an AI kind of thing at the top for a lot of things.
From Gemini, yeah.
From Gemini, absolutely. Or ChatGPT. Like I almost always now go to ChatGPT, even if I look for product recommendations or anything else. So, and then obviously in the US, ChatGPT started selling right from ChatGPT now as well.
Is it? Okay, I didn't realize that.
Only over there. So that will come to New Zealand at some stage, which is a natural progression, right? So you have to kind of then look at, okay, well, how do you rank for these language models, which is still very much kind of focused on SEO principles. It's kind of like using the right things, a lot about engagement, making sure people engage with your content, good rankings, because it's still a lot of these language models, they kind of still pull all the data from, say, Google search.
Yes.
So it's kind of works in a very similar way.
Yeah.
They look at Reddit.
Yes.
A lot.
Yes.
A lot. Like you often get like, you read it and you kind of, it's funny to play around with, like you got an AI hallucination, right? But it's kind of such a common thing now as well. And it says it will do something for you and it doesn't. And, or it comes up with an opinion or like a fact, but it's actually an opinion because so many people say something.
Yes.
That's how you can trick it still as well. It's not really overly clever yet. So you kind of like looks at Reddit and you can see like searching, right? And looking at all these things and like, oh, a lot of people said this, so this must be the truth.
Yes.
But it's not. So yeah, like I think being active for any business, actively out there currently on a lot of forums, being talked about a lot, is actually kind of really helpful for GEO.
Yeah, I agree. I haven't talked about this. I chair a web analytics SaaS company, hugely successful company based out of New Zealand, large market in Europe. And so I've gotten a lot closer to web analytics than I've ever been historically. And so worked with this company for a couple of years, been chairing it over the course of this year. And so what I've learned is that around about 10 years ago, let's call it, around about 100% of the searches that we did were through Google.
Yeah.
And so it was the acknowledged search leader at that stage. Let's call it was 97 or 96%, something in that sort of region. And of those searches that we did at that time, around about 100%, 96, 97% of them resulted in a click-through. We had an action because we went somewhere. Then Google gradually got better at having short descriptions of things, and we might be able to do some of the research in Google so that we wouldn't have to necessarily have it's called as an origination, no, an activation. I forget the name of it when you click through to something. That event started to drop off gradually over time. And so from 10 years ago until the advent of generative AI, it dropped about 30% over the course of the next kind of 7 or 8 years, maybe 8.5 years or so from around about 10 years ago. So up until 18 months ago, we'd lost about 30% of the click-throughs. The last 18 months, we've dropped another 30%. So if we go back 10 years ago, again now, we are doing 60% less click-throughs than we were 10 years ago. There's a couple of really interesting things about that to me. The first is that as advertisers, they haven't cottoned onto this. So people haven't really changed their advertising and SEO and positioning behavior. So there's a real arbitrage play for entrepreneurs, for people that are really clever about how they go about marketing at the moment. I know some very clever tech folk that are understanding how to optimize for GEO. And I'm not going to give everything away here because there's some trade secrets that I'm bound to keep. But one of the things that has become super powerful is regularly releasing listicles. So going back to old school blogs and releasing listicles, and don't just talk about your company, talk about your competitors' companies and talk about the reasons why they are difficult to work with. You're not slandering that company, but why, for example, if you're in the software space, why company ABC has a high total cost of ownership. The top 3 reasons that company ABC has a high total cost of ownership, because then the GEO will reference that thing and it'll go, this is the reasons why not to buy it, reasons not to buy ABC or reasons to buy XYZ if that's your company name. And that'll be some of the things that it starts to surface. And so another little interesting thing about AI, artificial intelligence, you're right, it's not very intelligent. People don't also get that it is actually machine learning, and machine learning is statistics. And so if enough people are saying something, statistically, if there is significance around people on Reddit saying something and it's opinion-based, then that's where the hallucination comes from. And so people think that they're getting facts from these things, but they're just getting an overwhelming, sway of public opinion about something, and it may or may not be true.
Yeah.
Reviews on products, that's probably going to be something that could be relatively reliable unless you get GameStop situation, which I've moved from product into stock picking. But all of a sudden, everyone's saying, buy GameStop. And so if we had artificial intelligence, in the form that we do now, and the GameStop saga was 2023, I think it was. For those who are unfamiliar, a whole bunch of stock pickers out of the States started to go buy GameStop to essentially tax the rich, because there was a hedge fund that had done a short on this thing, betting that the company would go all the way down to zero. And all these people in subreddit groups started to say, buy GameStop. And so they cranked the price of the stock up, and this hedge went from being a really good quality hedge into being a terrible one. And they lost billions. I think it was $2 billion that it cost this fund had to go under, kind of thing. And so if you'd gone, should I buy GameStop at that stage, it would have been like, absolutely buy GameStop. And it was just based upon a whole groundswell of opinion rather than it being a good quality stock, because their sales were tanking, right? Because it's in-store, in-mall, high lease values, diminishing margin. People are buying their games online. They're not going into the game stores, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a fascinating space. And as I say, there's an arbitrage play for smart entrepreneurs to go, how do we position ourselves effectively for GEO so the people that are doing searching and not leaving the search, leaving the AI agent, whichever one that is that they're using, will give them results which will favor their company over other companies.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the language learning models, LLMs, right? They're really just that at the moment. So maybe once we get to agentic AI, where it's kind of somebody you can actually get to do stuff and report back to you, and it kind of almost like a staff member, which we kind of want it to be, but it's definitely not even close to yet. And I think maybe, I don't know, like I had a bit of realization recently where maybe like a lot of other people thought that it would go really quick, but it almost feels like it's a bit of, like I would say, progression is still going rapidly, but it just feels like it's kind of not going as quickly anymore. This couple of cracks in the whole kind of mold at the moment.
Yeah. And in a way, I'm a little bit pleased about it. The way that I describe it to people is that, there is magic. There is absolutely magic in the box, but it doesn't come out and tell you how to use the magic. You need to know how to interact with the magic. And the analogy that I'm using is that as a species, as humanity, we've been accustomed to getting around on a bicycle. So we are bicycle bound at the moment. And so we think in terms of a bicycle. Someone's dropped a spaceship down in front of us, right? And they haven't given us a proper manual to use the spaceship. And so what we're thinking about it is in terms, it's a bicycle. So we might be treating it like a bicycle that can go faster, or possibly a motorbike. But we're not treating it like a spaceship. This is the great majority of people. So I talk to business owners all the time. What's your strategy with AI? We've got everyone using it across the team. How are you using it?
Yeah.
Why don't you show me what you're doing with it? And it's rubbish.
Yeah.
Nearly always, it's absolutely rubbish. So they're not got any agents that are working. They're doing a single prompt, like a 2-sentence prompt on something. They haven't got these 2-page prompts that you really need to do to get the machine to work properly. They haven't got teams of people that are, working groups that are supporting and encouraging each other. They haven't got all the stuff that will make it work. They'll get there over time.
Yeah.
But the reason that I think that that's a good thing is because when we get it right, it will have a massive displacement on employment, because we won't need knowledge workers, which are people with a computer on their desk, and that's most people to be watching the show, because we'll be having agents that will be set up to do all of these jobs. So, if that does slow down and create a bit of inertia, that'll be a good thing for us to be able to retool and make sure that we can kind of operate and thrive in this new world where there's a lot of machines that are supporting what we're up to.
Yeah.
I subscribe to this. I'm curious on your thought, and then we'll do the closeout question. But I subscribe to the future belongs not to the machine, and not to the human, but to the human that can interact seamlessly with the machine, and so that they know how to drive the machine more effectively. That's kind of my view on where things will go with AI. So in other words, it's up to us. It's incumbent upon us as individuals to understand how the machine works, and then work super, super well with the machine.
Yeah, that'll be the ideal situation, right? I mean, that's definitely something I would like to see as well. Like, on the other hand, there is, I think, a Harvard report done recently, or an MIT report, and I'm sure you've seen it as well, where we're now looking at becoming dumber because we're using more AI, but we use it for really dumb things, But in the end, it's really kind of depends on how. I completely agree. It's like how you use it, how you use it in your business, and also take it with a grain of salt. Use it more kind of currently for input or guidance or those kind of things.
Yeah.
But and more for kind of, I think it's for myself, brilliant research tool. I get really good insights. It streamlines a lot of that kind of work, but I'm not using it to say, well, hey, I'm looking at this and this and this. What decision should I make?
Yeah.
Because I know that's based on opinions, and then I might as well build based on my own opinion, right? So
yes.
Obviously, you can prompt it to look at facts and become more factual.
Yes.
This is like a good thing to do. So I always kind of nowadays say, is this fact checked? And you go, no, but I can do that for you. So okay, that might be a good thing to do.
Yes. Give me some statistics and some relevance around it.
Yeah. So, but I kind of, ideally, AI kind of and human intelligence and artificial intelligence seamlessly working together be ideal. And that might hopefully be the ideal future, unless we kind of very dumb enough to say, well, let's AI kind of make all the decisions for us. Yeah, then we'll go differently, right? But that's not.
Yeah, Sam Altman, his big single concern, Sam Altman, the founder of OpenAI, ChatGPT, is that we won't be shut down by the machines, but what will happen is that we will become so reliant upon the machines that their opinion, their statistics, their data will just become interwoven with everything that we do, and we will be unable to operate independently without the machines. And that's his single biggest concern about AI, which is an interesting thing to look into.
Yeah, absolutely. But like, look at now, like, I'm definitely already using it so much for a lot of different things that, I'm sure I can live without it. Can you live without a mobile phone? Absolutely. But it's kind of like interesting to see how quickly it's become part of what we do. And I use it to definitely become way more efficient. But I think the problem as well is if, I don't know, 20, 30 years ago, when we felt like we all had laptops and computers, the promise was IT and systems will make our lives so much easier. And then instead of doing a task that would take 20 hours, it will take 10 hours, and we have 10 hours of leisure time.
Yeah.
But we know that didn't work
At all.
So I think with AI, and that's a trend I see, like a task that you might take 20 hours will take 2 hours. So does it give us 18 hours of spare time, or are we just using that to do more and more and more?
Yeah. Possibly. Maybe get onto Reddit and hate on things. What actually do with that time. Yeah. Cornelius, there's an alternate universe. There's another Cornelius that lives in that universe, and he has an alternate career that is not the entrepreneur who's focused on building marketing-oriented businesses, and it's a deeply, deeply satisfying career. What would that career have been?
I think that career, and it would have almost happened if we wouldn't have moved to New Zealand, would have been a marketing director of a very large international business based in the Netherlands.
Sorry.
Lots of international great challenges.
Yes.
And I'd probably be very happy in that role as well.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay. So can I infer from that marketing is the right space for you to have ended up in? You feel like this is the right industry for you to be in?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah. Rich and varied conversation, Cornelius. Thanks so much for coming on the show. I'm really pleased that you lobbied me to come to the show. He didn't lobby me. He just dropped me an email saying, hey, got to come on the show. And so I wish you the best of luck in your roll-up. Cornelius Boertjens. I think I've got that right.
Yes.
Second time I have. I've nailed it twice. I've known you for 8-10 years. Thanks, Alan. And so I'm getting around to it. So people can follow you on LinkedIn if they're interested, or hit you up if they have a business that they think that you could be interested in.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Great. Thanks so much.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to the show. Your ears are really important to me. If you haven't already, why not check out joshcomrie.com. There's a bunch of free resources on there, a downloadable chapter of my upcoming book, 2 commas, a diagnostic to help you understand where your business may be at in relation to your exit journey. And why not feel free to drop me an email with any feedback that you could have. Any way I and any of us can improve is through feedback. Thanks again for listening.